He's Bill Reiter, and he's righter than you.
The program writer than you, sometimes.
He's a fan.
I love sports so much.
He's in your face.
I will destroy those obnoxiously arrogant, clueless, tone-deaf superstars who are marginal players, good players, made careers, who believe they're Hall of Famers.
He's nice.
I promise. We're nice here.
He's humble.
I think I'm usually pretty good here on the show about admitting when I got it wrong.
It's Righter Than You on the Infinity Sports Network.
It is a righterless Righter Than You here on this Tuesday. Ryan Hickey in for Bill. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. So training camps across the NFL are now open. Coaches are speaking. Owners are speaking. Players are back. We have a lot of drama, a lot of storylines to break down here. So let's go out to the guest line and welcome on Garrett Podell. Does a great job covering the NFL for CBS Sports. Garrett, good morning. Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes here. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me on. Training camps are getting underway here, and it's an exciting time as football gets ramped up once again.
Oh, you are very right about that. Very, very excited. Let's actually start, though, with a fan base that maybe is not as excited right now this morning, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals, because as we learned this morning from Adam Schefter, Trey Hendrickson holding out of Bengals training camp. He's looking for a new deal. Final year of his deal, wants a new contract, has yet to get one. He's not reporting training camp. Ironic enough, their other edge rusher, the rookie they drafted, Shemar Stewart, also not at training camp, not because of a contract, or I guess because of a contract situation, more about the language in his deal. Let me answer this, Garrett. Between the two, Hendrickson, Shemar, I both believe they'll be there week number one. Which situation, in your opinion, gets resolved first? Is it Trey Hendrickson or Shemar Stewart?
My prediction would be that Trey Hendrickson gets resolved first, and I think that's because of some of the reporting my colleague at CBS Sports, John Breach, did. He's based in Cincinnati, and he was talking to Bengals brass yesterday at the team's media day, a day before their training camp really gets going, and he was able to speak to Duke Tobin, the team's de facto general manager, and Tobin was clear Hendrickson's, quote, been very valuable and someone who's earned a raise and somebody who they're working to get done. Owner Mike Brown said, I think we're in a good spot. I hope this thing comes together soon. I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, so those quotes from Tobin and Brown that John Breach got for us at CBSSports.com, that indicates to me that ownership, as Mike Brown said, they want him signed. He literally said verbatim, we want to get him signed. So I think with that kind of deadline of training camp starting, I think Hendrickson is going to get paid and show up first because, I mean, for Hendrickson, it's pretty clear. He led the NFL in sacks this past year. He also hit the same total, 17.5 the year prior. They know they need him. And like you said, the Shemar Stewart case, it's a little less black and white because it's about contract language and he's never played for the team before. So to me, I feel like Hendrickson, if one's going to get done before the other, I'd say it's going to be the veteran.
We're talking to Garrett Podell of CBS Sports. Does a great job covering the NFL. I'm curious, Garrett, because when you look at the Bengals, like they put themselves in this no-win situation, I think, and at least when it comes to Trey Hendrickson, because I would argue their defense is outside of him is not very good. And you look at their resource allocation, they're paying Burrow a ton, Jamar Chase a ton, T. Higgins a ton, now probably paying Trey Hendrickson a ton. Like when you look at the Bengals as they're currently constructed, what are your expectations for them this season?
I think it's a unit that certainly could easily make the playoffs as a wild card. I mean, to me, the Baltimore Ravens are the class of the AFC North, won the division last year and the last couple of years. So I would say that this is certainly a team that can make the playoffs if everybody stays upright and healthy. And now that hasn't always been the case for Cincinnati over the last few years. But I think if Hendrickson's on the field week one, they've got the offensive core locked in, as you mentioned. I think this is a playoff team. And then, once Joe Burrow and co get in the playoffs, you never know what could happen. But that's the thing with Cincinnati. Not everyone has stayed healthy the last couple of years, which is why Cincinnati hasn't been in the postseason the last 2 years.
Right. And you could argue the depth or lack thereof is in large part because of they waited. They're overpaying. They could have got your Hendrickson on a cheaper deal, most likely. Now they're overpaying him. They overpaid him or had to overpay Jamar Chase because they waited when they could have got it done last year. And I think that's when you look at it, right? Like that, where like the cost is or where that really hurts the team. They kept the best players, But behind them, the rest of the roster and the 2s and 3s are not as deep as other teams. You're right, where those injuries, you could argue, are costlier to the Bengals than they would be for other teams like the Eagles, per se, because they waited so long and now are kind of like the Cowboys in a way, overpaying a lot of their stars. I was talking to Garrett Podell of CBS Sports. Make sure you follow him at Garrett Podell, Podell is how you spell Garrett's last name. I know you're very well versed, Garrett, in the Cowboys, and we just kind of talked to them in our last segment here. Jerry Jones does it again, right? It's like an annual tradition. Training camp starts, and Jerry Jones antagonizes a player who wants a new deal. Why? Like, why does Jerry every year, Garrett, pick on a player and basically call them out and try to nonsensically explain why they don't deserve the money they're asking for?
It's a great question, Ryan. So I'm based here in Dallas and plugged in with the Cowboys. I'll be out at Oxnard in August, and then I'll be with the team all throughout the season in person here in the Dallas area. And so actually we spoke to Jerry after night one of the draft, and on his kind of, not at the podium, but off to the side in the hallway session after night one of the draft, he was basically asked the question you asked me. And while I was standing right next to Jerry, he explained that it's about wanting to have all the information and a fear of guys getting hurt, and wanting to make sure his investment and the money he's paying is a wise investment. Basically, in short, he's overcautious. Jerry Jones, there's a Netflix documentary coming out about how in the 1990s he was this gambler, and that's how the Cowboys were able to win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years in the 90s and build that dynasty. That Jerry Jones doesn't exist anymore. I mean, now Jerry is, I don't know why it is, maybe Brandon Carr in the early 2010s. I think he was signed in 2012 to a long-term deal and he didn't work out. He views that as a reason why maybe he doesn't invest in free agents. And when he was asked about, well, you did sign Trayvon Diggs, the Pro Bowl cornerback, early, and right tackle Terrence Steele early, why can't you do that with Micah Parsons? And he said, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that with both of those guys. So then he went and antagonized Diggs and Steele, 2 players who are under contract. And so it's basically, he's now just operating out of this, overcautious mindset when you mentioned the Eagles earlier. And since they're in the Cowboys division, they're a great barometer for kind of why the best course of action is to re-sign your guys early. Players become extension eligible after their 3rd season. And if you think they're good, the case is you want to lock them down as soon as possible. And that's because, so the Eagles, right, they have 7 or 8 players whose average per year salary is over $20 million. And so that's a really high number.
Right.
But you go to their team cap space for this year, and the Eagles have just $1 million less in cap space than the Cowboys, despite the Cowboys having half that amount of players with average per year. Actually, they only have 3 now. 3 players, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Osa Odigizua, who make $20 million or more in average per year salary. But their cap space figures only $1 million apart. So how is that possible? When you sign guys early, you can structure the contracts in different ways and have 1 year, some guys cap hit a lot higher or lower. Anyways, the Eagles are able to mix and match that and have that flexibility because they get guys done early. Dallas doesn't, and therefore their cap space for 2025 is almost the same as a team that has 5 or 6 more dudes with these higher price contracts on the roster.
It's crazy, guy. That's a great example of just a team that knows what they're doing and a team that I think does not know what they're doing right now. I was talking to Garrett Podell of CBS Sports. Does a great job covering the NFL. So since you've been around Jerry, you know his mannerisms, you've been able to see him up close. One of the things, or one of the angles we were just talking about, Garrett, before he came on here about Jerry Jones, was like, this is not a new thing, right? He's been cautious for a while. He's overpaid for a while. He's antagonized players for a while. And the conclusion I've come up with, that I just feel like it's only growing stronger the more he talks, the more he pulls off his actions, is his main motivation is not winning, it's relevancy. And if the team can't win on the field to compete for a Super Bowl, well, he's going to drum up interest by saying some crazy things, going on the radio, saying crazier things, threatening radio host jobs, if not antagonizing his own players. As someone who's, again, been up close and personal, has been covering Jerry now for a while, is it fair to characterize Jerry as someone who does prioritize maybe relevancy, sometimes at the cost of winning.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a fair assessment. I mean, yesterday, for example, at his State of the Union press conference out at Oxnard, he used the phrase "dangling participle" a few times. It looked like that was his Mad Lib's word of the day or phrase he was trying to work in there. And look, I think you can only look at the results and say that might be the case because since 1996, they've made the playoffs 13 times. And they haven't made it to at least the conference championship game round for 13 consecutive playoff trips. That's the longest such streak in NFL history to do that. Longest streak in a row of postseason appearances without making the NFL Final Four. So the on-field results would indicate the method of delaying and feeling like you have all the information right before you re-sign someone to a big deal. Isn't working. I mean, that's what the on-field results show you. But Jerry wants to do that anyways. And like you mentioned, Ryan, when you do wait, the price goes up. For myself and you and other people in the media, it's great for headlines, great for business, but it's not probably great to build out your roster and contend for a Super Bowl.
And not great, I'm sure, for Cowboys fans either, who are, I'm sure, sick of it and ready just to see some winning on the field. Oh, boy, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. Garrett Podell is our guest. Make sure you check out Garrett on Twitter at Garrett Podell. Does a great job covering the NFL and the Cowboys for CBS Sports. So let's talk about a team or a situation here, Garrett, where teams and players actually truly in contention for a Super Bowl this year. Unlike the Cowboys, Bills, Ravens. Start the show by discussing this. Who would you say in your mind, quarterback-wise, has more pressure to win the Super Bowl this year? Is it Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson?
I mean, for the sake of this conversation, I would probably have to say Josh Allen because he's coming off of 2024 in which he won the NFL MVP when every, counting metric, statistical metric indicated Lamar should have won the award. And, Josh Allen made it to the AFC Championship game and could not get past the big bad Chiefs once again, despite probably last year's Kansas City team being the Chiefs' second worst or worst Chiefs team of the last 6 years, except for their 2021 team that got, or 2020 team that got smoked by Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl a few years ago. So, I mean, the Chiefs, they didn't have Rashee Rice. They had a very leaky offensive line. Their Travis Kelce, at 35, clearly looked like he lost multiple steps. Rookie Xavier Worthy was their best target, and they still couldn't overcome Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And so I feel like Buffalo did a good job this offseason at kind of supplementing their roster, getting deeper at the wide receiver position. I liked what they did, adding Joshua Palmer and defensively, taking a flyer on Joey Bosa if he is healthy. I think that's an upgrade for them. Maxwell Hairston, if the off-field stuff isn't a problem, one of the faster, more athletic defensive backs, and they were able to snag him. Bringing back Tre'Davious White as now a depth piece instead of, the all-pro he once was, but I think that's a great depth signing. I just think Buffalo gets so close, and Josh Allen's coming off winning an MVP award that on paper, I definitely wouldn't have voted for him last year. I thought that was Lamar's award. So he's coming off an MVP in which the case for Josh Allen was simply that he's more valuable because his teammates aren't that good. That was basically the argument.
Right.
And so I think when someone's MVP case is kind of as thin as Allen's was last year, and they couldn't beat, that Chiefs bully that still has their number, I think the pressure is more so on Allen to get it done. And especially this year where it looks like Rashee Rice is going to be suspended to start the year, so maybe the Chiefs don't start as hot. Kelce, even though he looks to be in good shape this offseason, I don't know what he's going to look like another year older than the last year, his contract in Kansas City. I think the Chiefs have shown that they're beatable. So it's on Josh Allen to get it done.
It is, and at least according to ESPN, Bills and Ravens, top 5 rosters in the league. So, yeah, you feel like it's kind of now or never, if you will. this is one of the best chances both quarterbacks will have of getting that elusive, at least first Super Bowl appearance, let alone first ring here. So talking to CBS Sports NFL staff writer Garrett Podell. Let's end here, Garrett. When you look at the NFC, Eagles, I think for me, like right now, I think they are good enough to repeat as champs. I really like how the roster's built. Harry Roseman's done a great job at keeping as much talent as possible, to also maintaining cap space flexibility. Who's the biggest threats in the NFC to the Eagles this year, you think?
That's a great question, because you could throw a number of answers out there. I mean, the 49ers had been that team that was neck and neck with the Eagles for years, but they got a little older and they lost some pieces. So I would not say it's the 49ers. If you're just going off which team in the NFC playoffs a year ago gave the Eagles the best fight, it would be the LA Rams.
Love that answer.
But I'm actually going to go with the team that had them in a tight game in the fourth quarter in the opening round of the playoffs. I'm going to say it's the Green Bay Packers. And here's why I'm going to say that. Yeah, I'm going to say it's the Green Bay Packers. And here's why. So Green Bay, even though Jordan Love had a roller coaster year with injuries, he suffered a knee injury, groin injury that kind of hamstrung kind of his ceiling. Last year they were 11-6, which was a win-loss improvement from a year ago. They've been the NFL's youngest team each of the last 2 years, but yet they've made the playoffs each of the last 2 years. And I really liked what they did in the offseason, filling out their wide receiver room with first-round pick Matthew Golden, kind of get a Swiss Army knife wide receiver, Savion Williams in the third round out of TCU. They bolstered their offensive line by signing Aaron Banks, who'd been a longtime starter for the 49ers, in addition to having, a first-round pick up there in Jordan Morgan, who from a few years ago, who they're developing. And defensively, this was a top 10 defense a year ago. And I like what they did getting Nate Hobbs. He's someone who can play inside and outside, the cornerback from Vegas. And really, and they were a top 10 defense despite Rashawn Gary and the rest of their pass rush kind of having a down year overall if you look at some of the pressure numbers. And so I feel like there'll be regression to the mean defensively for Green Bay in terms of their pass rush. And I think Jordan Love, with healthy, will look a lot like end of 2023 Jordan Love than the version we saw last year with him banged up. So I'm taking the Packers to be a young team that levels up. I mean, they've got an all-pro talent leading the back end of that defense. Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs was one of the best running backs in football in his first year in Green Bay. And so I think Love will be healthy, and they'll get consistent play out of some wide receivers, whether it's Jaden Reed or some of the rookies I mentioned. And I think the Packers are going to be the Eagles' biggest threat in the NFC this season.
I was not expecting that. Very interesting answer from Garrett Podell. Make sure you check out Garrett's work at CBSSports.com. It's a tremendous job covering the league and the Dallas Cowboys. Follow Garrett on Twitter at Garrett Podell, Podell. Garrett, this is a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks so much for having me, Ryan. I'll be out at Cowboys training camp in California, August 4th through 11th. Would love to talk again soon, man.